Good evening, viewers, and welcome to the show. Once again, it is the practical business steps with Enterprise Uganda. And today we have a very, very interesting topic. Of course, it's me, Charles Boji, and I have, besides our usual coach, who's going to introduce himself in a minute, we have a very special guest today who is actually going to unpack very critical ingredients that we have for you this afternoon in the topic, which is practical business lessons from a lady who transformed from a corporate career in information science to agribusiness, entrepreneur, and community development crusader. Now, we are combining two things. There's the aspect of entrepreneurship in agribusiness, and then the community crusader aspect. As usual, please bring your pen closer and the paper closer. We have quite a lot for you this afternoon. Charles, it's the time to greet the viewers and...
Yeah, good afternoon, viewers. We always look forward to this Sunday afternoon, and I'm so delighted to be here.
Then last but not least, our guests, none other than Noella Ojara. Now, Noella is the proprietor of Divine Organic. And it is from here that actually she cascaded her footing in the space of agribusiness. We're going to hear a lot from her. The dynamics in there, dealing with communities, and of course her other business endeavors, and how she has managed to get in there, stick in there, grow her footing in that space for the years she has been in that particular space. Charles, very interesting week indeed this has been.
Indeed it has been. From the business angle, there were some two cases where banks and their borrowers have been having a battle, and somehow both of them got into a point of a decision during the week. In one case, it was to say, Mr. Banker, you've done a mistake. Please pay the price for having done a mistake.
Yeah.
In another case, it was a conclusion to the effect that, Mr. Borrower, you have failed to honor your obligations. We're proceeding to dispossess you of your assets.
Yes.
And I know various emotions and discussions are still going on, and they went on regarding this particular two cases. But from the business coach perspectives, I only have one direction that I want to bring into the center of all this. And that direction is, if indeed each of these borrowing, lending cases were repaying their loans as per the loan agreements, the judgments we saw would not have been there. And one would then say, where then did the non-ability to pay come from? And in my view, the ball could fall on either case, the borrower, the lender. There are 5 C's that define ability to pay a loan that you've taken. And these people went into these banks, looked at these facilities, they were offered these facilities with loan offers, they signed those loan agreements. And in the 5 C's, these are the 5 C's, they must all work for that agreement to work out. Number one, the character of the person. Is he the kind of a person that would say, whatever I've told you here, I'm going to do it? Number 2 C is my capacity to implement what you've given me money for. You've given me a grace period of 2 years. Will I do it in 2 years? Will I do it in 3 years? You've given me 7 years to repay. Will I be able to run the business and repay in 7 years? That's C number 2. C number 3 is the cash flow, from which I will then be deriving the liquidity to service your loan. And that cash flow has got what we call assumptions. Were those assumptions valid? And to what extent were those assumptions made to actually work out? Because assumptions also entail some work. Number 3 is the conditions of the sector, the economy, the whatever it is. And then, of course, number 4 is the collateral. Now, if you look at the first 3 C's, most loan disputes are around those first 3 C's.
I hear you.
If you are the fellow who says, since I'm dealing with a bank I may not be able to trust, as a character person of that nature, you walk away. If you think, no, I think I can manage, you walk in there. And the bank also says, I think this is a character we can work with. They take you on. That is C. and then the next C of capacity, and then the third C of cash flow. Check every dispute in loan repayment, and you'll find those 3 C's are such a big story. But I bring it to the public because we should be using these cases to address a bigger picture about the private sector.
Yeah.
I've never seen a board of Uganda Investment Authority, for example, saying this was an investor who was paying URA taxes of 3 billion from real estate per year. He is collapsing. Can we have a board meeting and discuss this case? So that we start seeing how to redeem the bigger boys.
I think that's a very valid
It's
point,
a big
Charles,
one.
Because it actually brings on board all these business associations we have.
Yeah.
And the role, the value they add to their members.
Correct.
You know?
Because even if you blamed the borrower, or even if you blamed the banker for being over-believing, the point is there has been non-ability to pay.
Yeah.
And there are many more walking that direction.
Many.
The investment center, the parliamentary committee on economy, all of us who want to create jobs for this country.
Yeah.
These borrowers were creating jobs. They are closing. We are concentrating on the court rulings. There are underlying issues in there.
Actually, by the time you reach the court ruling, you're only doing post-mortem.
Correct. There are many more on the same journey, and if we don't start picking them and having a conversation with such fellows, with such lenders, we will be waiting to assess the court judgments. Who is right, who is wrong?
Very good point, as Charles.
Yeah.
Of course, we also had independence, and many people were happy about the political independence. Others are smuggling in the aspect, not smuggling in, actually they're pointing to, emphasizing the point of financial independence.
A key one, because if we got, for example, in 1954, we got Owen Falls Dam funded by the colonialists. Then 30, 50, 40 years later, we are looking for another donor somewhere to come and expand it. Where are we as a country that says we can run our nation?
Yeah.
We are given a university of the level of Makerere University. I hope we shall not be going to some donor again somewhere to come and rebuild a building that was burnt down.
Well, I've seen some donors already lining up to help.
So this economic independence we're talking about here,
Yeah.
it lies on the occupants of the country called Uganda. And the occupants had better sweat their way out in the arena of world economy. Don't go there with a begging bowl. Go there with a basket of pineapples. Go there with a basket of eggs. Go there with something people are saying, we have been waiting for you. Then you sit in the table of people who talk about international decisions.
The table of men.
A table of men, that's the point.
Charles, we had a very interesting, moving on to,
Yes.
distill some of the main pointers from last week's discussion.
Yeah.
Very powerful discussion from a lady,
Yeah.
Daphne Nafula. I think, I'm one of the people who actually saw Daphne at a certain point, probably during her early years.
Yes.
Really starting out and building what she has,
Yes.
expanding into construction.
Yes.
For a lady, which was a bit, strange for some people.
Very true.
Beauty,
Yes.
products,
Yes.
and the health subsector.
Very true.
Yes. What can you tell our viewers who missed that powerful testimony?
Charles, I really appreciate the way you just put that background, because every case we bring to this afternoon Sunday conversations has something different for us to take away. And yes, indeed, Daphne's story had some very interesting elements. And I will start by what I call standard takeaways from a story of Daphne. The first one is that what you repeatedly do shall shape your competence or your skills, and shall also shape your character or your attitude. Daphne was that kind of a person who repeatedly said, I will go for goals, achieve them, and keep achieving and achieving and achieving, and she built that kind of a self-driven person. Number two, use a salaried job as a bridge, as a gym. You never go to a bridge and remain there.
Yeah.
You don't go to a gym and make it a home. You go to a gym to acquire the principles of self-drive, productivity, and time management. Let the salaried job give you this.
And the bridges are for crossing.
and therefore crossing. So that after you acquire those things,
Yes.
you shall need them when the salary ends, which I put here clearly that at some point it must end.
Yeah.
And I want people to know that even when you work until the age of 60 years, you have had some productive 30 years. You have another 25 to 30 years of no salary. What did you take from the bridge? What did you take from the gym to walk that remaining part of the journey?
I think that's an important one, Charles.
It is.
Sorry to cut you short. Because there are people who don't believe that they can survive outside the confines and the comfort of a corporate office, of a salary.
A salary. And that's why they go to all these elements of jealousy, witchcraft, office protection, intrigue.
To protect that little
yes, anybody
thing
trying to get nearer, you don't sleep, and you are all the time panicky and saying, my bread is going away, my bread is going away. The moment we learn to know that that is just a bridge, that is just a gym for you to go into a bigger territory, you begin to see it with a better perspective. And more people should use the bridge to keep going.
Thank God we have Noella here.
Yes, very good. Number 3, anti-related.
Yeah.
The days of relying on one source of income are gone. No matter how good the contract, the terms, and how good your employer is. He may be very religious. Never ever believe just because I'm working with a religious organization, my job, my salary is guaranteed. Those days are gone.
Permanent and pensionable.
Are gone completely. So specifically to the lesson from Daphne. 1. In a work environment, high achievers want constant challenge. They want to enjoy exchange of ideas. They want to thrive on equity rather than a rank. Because a rank is given a contract of 3 years, and during that 3 years, your salary is fixed. But you might be performing better than somebody with the same rank. So, in the work environment, good achievers tend to find that a big issue. Now, in the case of Daphne, she used to hit her targets ahead of time, but she did not see personal growth coming out because the system never rewarded self-drive and initiative. Instead of becoming angry and losing energy, she saw the opportunity in the private sector and she moved on. Lesson number 2. Passion tends to cover the mountains that inhibit others from going on to achieve their dreams. If you have got passion, you will see a lot of holes there, but you kind of walk over them. Daphne established Home of Shades, but never got intimidated by the fact that construction was largely a men's domain. Similarly, she went into health and beauty solutions, despite having a training background of political science and international relations. She went in there and began to see Oriflame. This, how do I get on with this kind of a product and bring it in to create beauty solutions for my country? And she spoke and walked the game of those subsectors. Number 3, there is no shortcut to acquiring competence and the right attitude in whatever you do or whichever type of business you choose. Before going into carport business, Daphne visited and took internship with a reputable regional firm involved in carports in Kenya. And I will normally tell people that no matter which business you are going to go into, somebody has done it. Have you gone to understudy that person? Or are you saying, oh, I'm coming from the corporate world, I have degrees. You people, you don't know who I am. You will burn your resources, and they will be burnt faster and quicker. She also went on into the beauty subsector, but took the agency of a very reputable brand called Oriflame, a top-range brand in the field of beauty. Her key principles, which were really interesting principles. Number 1, she said, there's only one Daphne. What does that speak? In the private sector, and indeed as an adult in your adult life, never underestimate yourself. So long as she kept on sharpening her business skills, through training solutions with institutions like Enterprise Uganda and others, she knew she would outclass the competition. Whether you are tall, short, thin, big, light, dark, believe in yourself. Your creation was a job done by a super force. So never underestimate yourself. Principle number 2, broaden your sources of income, even when you are in full-time employment. What do you do with your leave days? She asked when she was seated here. What do you do with your weekends? And then she made a statement. You had better aim at having 5 income streams before age 50. Many of us are past 50. Some of us are getting to 50, and you are still having one source of income, the 30-day periodicity of salary release from your employer. Risky and risky again. The other principle she had was be humble. And then she brought it out and said, because humility is not to say, let me just be here, then when people come, I'm timid. No. She said, be humble to learn from the workers, your clients, your peers, experts, but be fearless when pursuing your goals. Anybody who comes into your space and you are well grounded in your space, be ready to stand your ground and deliver on your mission. Final note, second last point, she said, be happy for others. Very interesting. Be happy for others, including a staff that you trained but left to start a competing enterprise with you. Let it be. The world is large. And when you, in fact, it is the great American, the owner of Walmart, who said, in case you feel now you are too big that there's no competition, create one. Let one Walmart branch in Bukoto compete with the Walmart branch in Nakawa. Just in case the likes of ShopRite have disappeared. Don't get scared of competition.
And don't get comfortable.
Don't get comfortable. So please, love others and wish them well. And finally, love people, because whatever you do exists to serve humanity. Those were her key learnings. And I thought those were the kind of things that build an independent country called Uganda.
Thank you, Charles.
Yes.
Now, viewers, it is important for us to understand this program is not just for employees that are looking to start a business somewhere, but it's also for those employers. Because if you listen to Daphne's story, Charles, she really brought out the aspect you've highlighted of how do we reward talent?
Exactly.
How do we reward achievement in places of work?
Very true.
That lumping of employees. And many people are losing talent.
Yes.
A number of industries are bleeding talent because they fail to spot and reward appropriately the good
And they remind
work.
you, you're a driver. Don't you know what other drivers are being paid? I'm even paying you more. Your driver is a marketing person. Your driver is a person in charge of operations. Your driver is delivering items on time. And you're just using the word driver, a rank.
That's well put, Charles.
Delicate.
Simple and clear. We're not talking about macroeconomics and all those terms. Noella, this is the point when I bring you in. I'm sure my viewers are really keenly waiting to know who Noella is.
Thank you. Good afternoon, viewers. Noella Ojara is my name. I'm very pleased to be here today. And I'm representing 80% of the labor force, and that is the women. So Noella is a woman with 2 children. I'm a farmer, and I am a director in a company by the names Divine Organic Foods. But also, I'm also a director in Divine Gold Fabrics and Designs, which is based here in Kampala. Divine Gold Fabrics and Designs works with a number of women. We are empowering them with tailoring skills, but also producing corporate wear, individual wear, name it. And that is here in Kampala. While Divine Organic Foods works with a number of people, we work with over 3,000 farmers for the past 3 years that we have worked. Based in Lira, we work with farmers in Lango, we work with farmers in parts of Acholi, farmers in parts of Teso and in West Nile. And we are specific to the root crop value chain because we recognize the gap in there that root crops, that is cassava, sweet potato, and beetroot, which is a new crop in the northern part of the country, is mainly for food security, but can be turned into an income crop. And for me, migrating from the corporate world that I was working in, I was looking at impact. Where do I make an impact? Because I was working in civil society, and I felt the advocacy there needed to be more practical. And that is where I decided to go down and start a journey that I am still in, with crops that I had never grown personally. But when you come to me about the root crops, you will be challenged, because I have specifically involved myself in this value chain right from the inputs, and that is the planting material. I know about the planting material that we offer to the farmers. We provide extension to the farmers that we have been working with. We also do market linkages for them, and where we can, we buy the root crops, and we are able to process it and sell it to markets here in Kampala. So that is about Noella.
That's well put, indeed. I see, you know, the advocacy spirit, you know, coming out, and the articulation.
Yes.
Noella, you know, a number of people, you know, because it's the point we were talking about at the beginning, when they're in, you know, some of these office spaces, it becomes extremely hard to make the transition from a particular subsector where you're sitting, especially the advocacy, the NGO world where you're seated. Because we know in the NGO world, that's where you find experts at proposal writing, not business plans.
Yes.
So, and I'm sure there are some of our listeners who are still seated in that space and are wondering, especially COVID has shaken us out of our comfort zones. What can I do out there? How do I even start to make that transition? Just share your experience on how you began on that journey, that, you know, those different sectors where you're sitting in today. How did it begin? Where did you start?
Actually, I am an information scientist with my first bachelor's and information science and library, and transitioning to the sectors that I am now a player wasn't really easy. And I used the knowledge of information science and the power of information science to read a lot about this. But when I decided to walk out of the corporate world and go to the practical, we make a lot of noise sometimes. We need to be on ground to know what the ordinary Ugandan goes through, and that's the smallholder farmer. So it wasn't
and get out of workshops.
Yes, it wasn't an easy journey, but what propelled me to start this journey, specifically in the field of agribusiness, where the majority of my target audience lie, is first the food that I was eating on my plate. I thought we could have better food, because that was a time when a lot of synthetic fertilizers were coming in, a lot of food that everybody claimed was GMO. Nobody could differentiate, this is GMO, this is, you know. And then I thought and said, why don't I look for something that the young people, because by then I was young, would associate with. And I looked at what was coming up, which was the sausage, you know. And it may sound really out of the world, but then I said, let me think of a vegetable sausage, something that the young people who will be my market will associate with. So eventually, I went down and said, I can actually get ingredients from the smallholder farmer that can make this sausage, and therefore have a rollback effect to the smallholder farmer's income and in the household. But when I was there, I was in Industrial Research Institute. That is where I started the research with the support of the institute. And I realized that even when I wanted to do this, the quality of the raw material that I needed wasn't there. And this goes back to post-harvest handling, when I realized that these were the challenges. And some of even the materials themselves were not good enough to do what I needed. While beyond Uganda, these were some of the raw materials which were being used already for certain products. So then I decided and said, let me get back and start right from the garden.
Yeah.
To start that dream. And to start that dream, we needed things like starch. And we didn't want to use imported starch, wanted to use starch that we have. And from the region I come from, cassava is widely grown. And we all know that cassava has starch. So I thought it would be best to extract the starch from the cassava. And that's how the journey started to become a root farmer, specifically with cassava.
Very interesting. So how did, before I bring in Charles, how did the people around you take that decision, the leap you made? Your family, your colleagues?
Yeah.
Even the bosses that
yes,
you were working with?
It was a mixed reaction from my employer. It was a mixed reaction from my family. Initially, I'm very proud of my mom because she stood by me.
Yeah.
And when I started the journey, she was there. I'm also very glad that some members of my family as well stood by me, while others thought and said, but why are you getting out of this? You already have a career, you have worked at the international level, you are at a national level, you worked at a national level and went to international level. Why are you coming back to this sector which doesn't seem to have hope? And that's the agriculture sector. And I said, no, actually that's the sector that eventually all of us will turn back to. And yes, we have all turned back to it, including my family. Those who didn't believe in it now believe in it and are very supportive. So, but for my bosses, I remember one of them who mentioned and said, you have done the right thing at a young age and remain there. Yeah.
I think that's a good one. I like that, Charles. You know, there are things you can do when you're still young. You can take certain risks. It's a little easier than at a certain age.
Yeah, very true. And from just what you have submitted, there's something about image when you're transitioning from the corporate world, which has got reporting time, a title, a desk, an address, to now where you're saying, I'm going out there to start causing impact on farmers. You have no address. You have no name of the business. There is no monthly salary. There's no contract to sign. You don't even have a title that we can give you now. Basically, you are a jobless person in our kind of language. Image is such a big thing to get into the unknown. And here is a person who has carved out a profile in a sector where people are saying, your future is right here. And there are many who are watching this program and are battling with a similar thing. Here is the beauty, and comes from the question you have just said. The earlier you start practicing these decisions of multiple income streams by beginning to run that side enterprise without affecting what you do in your daytime job, the better for you. Because then the salary is coming, you're also beginning to run the other side of the game, and you are beginning to see how to marry the image issues with the reality of life, which is that at some point you are going to be on your own. So the earlier you start, the better. And then two, no matter how late you delay to starting and say, let me first have 40 years of experience, no matter how long you wait, you are still going to have challenges. And those challenges will relate to still lack of experience in that particular thing. Two, your energy is beginning to go a bit down. Three, you still have a lot of people to look after. Some of your children will still be at school at that age. So don't delay this game. Don't delay this game is the message.
Thank you, Charles. That is, and I'm sure it's being taken and taken serious. So, Noella, where are you now? I know you touched a little on a number of, for instance, farmers or farming community that you're dealing with. But broadly speaking, where are you in terms of operations? I mean, the size of your operation, your customer base, and the lines of products, or if I may call them that, within agribusiness, especially, and then, of course, the design side of things.
Right now, I would gladly report that we have grown and we are looking at consolidating our efforts and expansion. We have grown in terms of region, like I mentioned. We are no longer working only in Lango sub-region. We are able to support farmers as far as West Nile, Acholi and Teso. And these are smallholder farmers, mainly planting about an acre of the root crops. We also have grown in terms of employers. One thing about Divine Organic Foods is we practice a principle of lean management.
Okay.
So we have staff between 80 to 120 depending on the season and depending on the work at that particular time. Of course, the effects of COVID has seen us work with less people, but still we are able to employ a number of women and youth in our different activities. We have also been able to put in our products on the market. We mainly target industrial market, not so much of the retail, because our products are substitutes to wheat. So we produce cassava flour with sweet potato flour, and this is specifically the orange flesh sweet potato variety that we produce. And then we are working on the beet powder, that's the beetroot powder. So we have grown in terms of the number of people that we are reaching out and selling our different products. Other than the flours, we're also able to sell the inputs, the cassava cuttings to more farmers and to more institutions, and then the sweet potato vines. So yes, indeed, we have grown and looking towards consolidation and expansion.
So these cuttings and vines, do you get them from other research institutions, or you develop and then sell to research institutions and then also to the farmers, or distribute them to the farmers?
While we practice, like I said, lean management, we work very closely with partners. Those are technical partners.
Okay.
We noticed that agriculture is not a one-man's game or one-man's show. So we work very closely with NARO, and we get the clean inputs from there, and that is the basic seed which we multiply as Divine Organic Foods in our different farms. We have about 3 farms in Lira in different locations. When we multiply this seed, we also work with a laboratory called Senai, where we get the sweet potato vines. When we multiply, then we are able to give it to other farmers. Now we give it to farmers who are able to take care of it at a certified level. That's for those who are knowledgeable about the seed. So we have basic seed in our farms, and it's certified by Ministry of Agriculture. Their technical team are able to come, visit our farms and certify. And then we have the farmers who we give the seed to equally grow it and are able to distribute to other farmers. So in scenarios where we need to meet an order, an LPO, we have our farms, but we also have other farmers who we have already integrated into the seed systems. We train them, and they're able to keep this crop, and we're able to distribute as many quantities as possible. Yeah.
Charles, this is not a normal farmer.
No.
It's quite deep. You know, and I mean, you're seeing.
Yeah.
First of all, what touches me is she's an information scientist.
True. Very, very, very true indeed. And I want people to know that when we go to school, it's a pride to say I'm an engineer, and even pride to say I'm an accountant, but we're over limiting our brains. Listening to Noella speak, anybody in the science field, especially in agriculture and all that area, would just say, this is just our very own. She speaks the language, she knows where to go, she knows how to take care of quality. And she knows that it's not about just picking any farmer because they come from your village. Somebody has to be certified. And if you get certified, follow the principles. She has gone into the space with professionalism to simply say it can be done. And these are the kind of things I want Uganda to begin to appreciate. That as we do these Sunday afternoons, we should be able to borrow from people like her, that our own capabilities can be multiple.
Yeah.
Celebrate your education, but don't make it to limit your ability to get into whatever you want to go into. She speaks with calmness about a sector of sophisticated science and research.
Absolutely.
You know?
That's a good one. It really, really touched me. But Noella, you're working, because there's another monster in that equation, your world, and that is managing a group or community dynamics.
Yeah.
Because you're dealing with thousands of farmers, you know, in your business line. How have you managed? Because I know this is a question we normally get, especially with the guests that we get here that deal with groups.
Yes.
How you manage to deal with, you know, the dynamics of managing those groups and making them deliver what you want them to deliver.
People would really want to know what are the key success factors in your view.
First and foremost, you must understand who a smallholder farmer is. Who is that farmer? Their needs, you understand their environment that they live in, and their culture. When you understand that, then you can be able to play the dynamics within that society. And for Divine Organic Foods as a company, when we recognize that the importance of working with those farmers, our farms are not managed by our staff.
Okay.
Our farms are actually managed by the farmer groups and communities within the farm. So that alone takes us off the huge expense of looking for different, a farm manager on site, an agronomist on site and all that. So we get into communities and see that they actually have land. Can we put it into use? And we put it into use in two ways. First and foremost, we establish a farm there, and then we leave them to manage the farm. But they have someone heading it all within our staff. So this person periodically has keeps in touch and visits. So the farming community alone feels that they are part of us, because they manage a resource that eventually gets back to them as discounted seed. So we discount the price, because they too would have understood that as we manage these farms, we're actually managing our farm. That creates the sense of belonging and ownership. And then in scenarios where we have identified land, we also work through the districts or the sub-county. We start with the sub-county and get to the districts and say, we have identified this land, it's community land, could we use it? And where they give permission, then we use it. Where the company has acquired land, we actually give these, the land in, we put it in blocks and give it to farmers, disadvantaged farmers within the community. In few cases, we have involved authorities in finding out who are these disadvantaged farmers. But in many cases, we have community meetings where they actually say, oh, this particular household doesn't have land, but they could benefit. So then we divide the land into blocks, and we then give them to manage. Remember, we are giving them the inputs cheaply. In certain instances, we are just giving them inputs. They grow, but the contract is the roots and the different products that are coming out from there are for Divine. They have a portion that is for their food security. Now, in those situations, we then mobilize those farmers within the block to get into groups. So when they get into groups, we take them a step further. Can you start saving? Can you start working together? Can you start offering labor to the next farms, so that all this money you collect, because you're already organized, and put it in your basket of savings? And this has helped us. The discounted prices of clean certified seed has helped us win the farmers and the farmer groups. And we equally love to work with farmer groups, because together they are stronger. Individually, they are weaker. Yeah.
That's very powerful. You know, it's effortlessly social entrepreneurship. You know, I've spoken to a number of social entrepreneurs, and
Yes.
they will struggle to actually bring out the social aspect.
Exactly. Exactly.
But I wanted to ask something before Charles comes in.
Yes.
Because this story of, you know, it's a well-structured story, well-organized,
Yeah.
and you can clearly see it's the experience you're living. How did you, at some point now, connect with Enterprise Uganda? Because I imagine there must be, you know, a mentor somewhere in this direction.
Yes, at some point in 2017, actually 2016, we were invited for a meeting at Africana, and that was organized by DFCU, Women in Business. And I walked into the meeting as I was late, but I was fortunate enough to have one of the colleagues of Mr. Chichi, that was Ronald Mukasa, in the meeting. And I took his number because I was saying, if you need some kind of support, come to Enterprise Uganda. So I took Ronald's number, and it was after several weeks and probably months that I again came across this number. At that time, I was at crossroads between the design workshop that I was having in Kampala and slowly starting to set up a basic seed garden in Lira, and that the first crop was cassava. And so when I walked to Enterprise Uganda, I was just sharing 2 days ago, I walked and I had a very welcoming atmosphere. One where you felt you're finally at home as an entrepreneur, because it's a loner journey. You reach a point and you feel you're alone.
You're walking alone.
You're walking in space.
Yes.
But in just a nutshell or a summary, one of the key things that struck me, saying, while you have all these plates on your table and you can eat from all these plates, but what is your cash cow? Was my cash cow at that time, did I want to put all my efforts in the design workshop, or did I want to put all my efforts in agribusiness? And priority is very, very important. It's a very important decision that an entrepreneur has to take at a certain point in time, because your mind keeps going wild and you keep on developing ideas day in and day out, and you want to give your minimal resources to all those ideas. But then I sat back and prioritized and said, actually, my cash cow would be agribusiness. And that was the key. And the key has never turned off. I kept going in for the trainings in Enterprise Uganda, very informative trainings, very empowering trainings, trainings that dug deep into things like what are the leakages within your system as an enterprise. What systems do you have, and do those systems actually work? And if they don't work, then you better benchmark and say, this could work, this could not work. Things like record keeping, small records. The English say 1 + 1 makes a bundle. Yeah. And sometimes we don't keep the record of 100 shillings or 500 or 1,000, and yet that then makes impact in figures at the end of the year when you're going to do your audits. So those trainings in Enterprise Uganda, really, it was more like a knife sharpened me. And when I constantly get in touch with them and get the trainings, I still feel very empowered. Yeah.
That's good. That's nice to hear, indeed. Charles.
Interesting, and truly, these are the kind of things that make my week end well. Listening to the lady talk about how she mastered the art of working with the farmers. Yeah. There's a concept we teach a lot, the key success factors. If you don't know the key success factors for your territory, don't go there. No amount of money thrown into a business will make you remain in that territory. Yeah. Because it's already having somebody occupying it. If you are going to get in there when you are grounded on the key success factors. And you can see how she brought out what it means to get farmers to get into the game. They must see benefits of what they are going to get And those benefits, they must be able to say, we own this game, we own it. You see the benefits of discounted clean seed. And that discounted clean seed is for them first and foremost, then others later. Then they're also saying, you know what, you need to, now when you start making money, begin to save. And as you begin to save, you are beginning to build a pool of resources that you can cross-learn amongst yourselves. But she also brings out other aspects about succeeding in such a space. Never will you be a change agent in communities if your networking skills are rusty. She said, walk to the district leadership, walk to the sub-county leadership. Resources do exist. But are you willing to knock? And when the Bible says, knock and the door shall be opened. Ask and you shall receive. Seek, it is active process. You don't just say, let me pray about it. Let me see if I can fast tomorrow. Do the fasting, do the prayers. The next day, get out and go and do the asking. Go and do the knocking. The networking skills were really. So you can see what it means to be able to go into your territory. Key success factors, very important. But she also goes ahead and illustrates what it means to remain sharp, because you can get started and you can actually get comfortable. So she's discovered that when she came to the training, she began to notice the power of detail, the power of record keeping and learning from them. Because in banking, they say, each day a bank is opened, according to Bank of Uganda rules, by the time you close the bank at 4 o'clock, no matter how many customers you got that day, you must balance the last shilling. Here you are doing a petty business. Your day you have just had about 3, 7, 8 customers. You don't know your balance, the last shilling. A bank had 1,000 customers. It must balance the last shilling. And it must do the balancing daily, irrespective whether that day there was no attempted robbery in the bank. Still do the balancing. Don't say, today was a bit okay, it was safe. Why should I bother myself? Make it a habit. Make it a habit.
No,
and it's these kind of principles that define sustainability and longevity in the private sector. And you never get used to these things. Every day, do them as if you've just started the game.
And I think it's a good one. She brings out, just to add something, Charles.
Yes.
You know, a very important thing she picked from the Enterprise Uganda engagement.
Yes.
You know your cash cow. We have so many entrepreneurs who have spread themselves so thinly.
Correct.
So much so that if you ask them what their priority line of business is.
Correct.
You know, they take the idea of starting different other income streams literally.
Very true. Very true. The cash cow concept actually is such a very powerful thing because it's always your fallback territory. That's where you got the identity, you got your name, and if you don't continue to treasure it because it is old, you actually can tear it up because you are now looking all types of interesting ideas in front of you.
Great. Noella, I know you work with several institutions because, I mean, you've just mentioned, you know, the network and how important that has been, you know, to your business model. Which other institutions are you working with and what have you been able to get out of this?
Wow. I work with institutions that, like I said, that are involved heavily in the root crop sector. NARO, which I have really appreciated the root crop department that has been very supportive. You need any technical information, you know, they call you for trainings on cassava and the other root crops. And that has really been very vital in our growth as Divine Organic Foods. We are also working with institutions like Harvest Plus, which provides us the technical support for the orange flesh sweet potato. They work very closely with the International Sweet Potato Center. But in our game, I should say, of lean management, we also work with institutions that are able to reach out to farmers. So where we see a gap or where we see a business opportunity for Divine Organic Foods, we also identify what institution is within that area. Could it be a civil society institution or government? Because government is all over the place. So we work with the sub-county chiefs, you know, to identify where are the groups, where are the needs, looking specific still to our sector. And then for the institutions that we have been able to reach out to, institutions like World Vision, institutions like ActionAid, where Goal, where we have been able to get to them, and then they get to their farmers. They don't necessarily pay for what we are giving their farmers, because it wouldn't be within their area, but it's because we see that that's a way that we can jump the boat and get to the smallholder farmer. Then we are able to link with the farmer and continue with the network. We are also fortunate to be working with some government institutions as well who have recognized our efforts in specializing in root crops, and we are very grateful that the government continuously is boosting the root crop department, the root crop sector, by giving as much inputs to farmers as possible, especially the cassava cuttings and in some instances the sweet potato vines. So yes, those are some of the institutions,
that you work with.
Yeah.
Great. Now viewers, you can be part of this discussion. I'm going to release calls in the last 25 to 20 minutes. So I'm sure there are many out there who have questions for Noella and Charles for this particular session, because it's very, very important. It sits, you know, in the space of pure business,
yes,
but then also the social entrepreneurship aspect coming
and
out
making it sustainable.
Exactly. Now, again, because we don't want to appear like motivational speakers, because this is not a motivational speaking.
No, these are real pushing and
exactly. So based on that, I understand, you know, it must be. It hasn't been a bed of roses, I understand, because there are always ups and downs when someone is doing business. For starters, you're dealing with so many stakeholders. You have the farming communities, you have these institutions to deal with. What are some of the challenges that have come your way, and how have you managed to deal with them?
First and foremost, the power of information, the power of knowledge has enabled me to deal with all these stakeholders. And after my first degree, I had wanted to go and study something else.
Noella, hold it there. We're going to take a very short commercial break. We'll pick the discussion from there. Viewers, we're going to take a short commercial break. We'll pick the discussion from there after this commercial break. Welcome back from that very short commercial break. We are still looking at the story of Noella Ojara. She's into agribusiness and design. Divine Organic is her business in the agribusiness space. And she's telling us her story. She was in a corporate environment, you would say, working with the NGO world, in this case, and made a decision to join the business world. And her story, for those that haven't been with us, that are just joining us, is quite riveting. And we have all the resources online to actually help you follow this discussion. Now, if you want to be part of the discussion, ask Noella a question. We're going to release the phone calls in the next like 10 minutes so that you can direct your questions to Noella and the business coach we have in the house. But also we have a WhatsApp number on screen where you can forward your question and comment for that engagement. Noella, you were telling us before we went for the break some of the challenges you've had to contend with, you know, doing the business you're doing, especially dealing with the different stakeholders, but then also how you've managed to overcome these challenges.
Thank you, Charles. I will start with how I have managed, because when challenges come as an entrepreneur, you must focus at the good side of the enterprise or the good side of the business, the things that you have done, and that is what I will start with. And information, like I said, is very, very vital. And getting empowered in knowledge and skills, I decided to turn around and pursue a Master's of Science in agribusiness management and entrepreneurship. And that empowered me and has empowered the enterprise, and I'm sure has empowered the farmers who I work with and I will continue to work with, and I look forward to working with. Compliance to regulations that have been set up by the government at the different local government districts where we're working with. We, as Divine Organic Foods, have tried to comply. And compliance means we are legally registered, we are paying taxes, we are doing what we need to do. We are auditing our books, we are reporting to even our stakeholders. Who are the farmers? For us, our stakeholders, first and foremost, are the farmers. How have we performed? Do we need to produce more? Do we need to improve on our post-harvest handling of roots, among others? And consistency. Consistency has helped us, in spite of the challenges that I will mention, being consistent and focused to our sector or to our enterprise and to the crops that we are growing and building on the knowledge that we already acquire. My team knows that each time I keep on telling them, you must study, you must go back to school, you must learn about this, you must read about the crops that we are engaged in. What is the new technology? What technology transfer can we acquire and transfer back to the farmers? So being consistent and knowledgeable about these things have helped us. But what are the challenges that we have met? Stakeholders, because we are working with different stakeholders, and these are very knowledgeable stakeholders and those who know the practice of planting, and those are the farmers, and the challenges have been widespread. And these are things like bureaucracy in some institutions, malice in certain areas, in the markets. We have had challenges like even corruption, where you get into a place and you know that there is actually something that if you get from this particular office, you are able to pick it out and make it impact the farmers. And one would say, okay, can I have this? Or before you do this. So we have met those challenges, but we have remained practicing consistency, being focused, integrity in our game, and in what we are doing.
I hear you.
Yeah.
That's a good one. Your company's name has the word organic. And I'm sure there are many Ugandans probably who may not know what I wouldn't want to underestimate my viewers, but probably they may not be familiar with the term. Just unpack for us, just briefly, what it means and what leverage it gives someone who practices it.
It is very fortunate that last month the government and MAIF, Ministry of Agriculture, passed the National Organic Policy. And that is really a big plus to this country that is the second globally with the highest number of producers who are certified organic producers. And they are looking at tapping a huge market of over 80 billion euros, something about that, global market. 80 billion
Wow.
euros. And for organic, we are equally moving towards being certified. But you must follow certain procedures and practices on farm that make you organically certified and make you tap into the market. And the growing trend of the middle income and globally is the need for food on their table that they can trace. Traceability is very important. That they know is sustainably produced and that is organically produced. They know that it is healthy for them to eat it. It is from the Mother Earth. It's from the soil. And for us as organic, sweet potato naturally. The two of you will tell me if any of you know that synthetic fertilizer is poured into the ground before sweet potato is grown. So sweet potato worldwide is grown organically. And that is one thing that we carry as a strength. The smallholder farmer is not able to afford the synthetic fertilizer for either whatever root crop. whether cassava or sweet potato. So these crops have been growing generation by generation organically. And for Divine Organic Foods, we therefore tap into that, the strength that these crops have been growing organically, you know. There is nothing that has been added. While we appreciate science for bringing in synthetic fertilizer and others for mass production, our focus on the smallholder farmer remains that they can tap into the 80 billion euros, the organic market. And therefore, we are moving towards an export-driven or farmer-led enterprise, which is for the farmers and for their benefit.
At this point, viewers, you can be part of this discussion. In the next 5 minutes, I'm going to release the calls. If you have any question or comment that you want, to pass through, we'll be able to pick it from you. Charles, quick pointers before we release the calls.
Yeah, the first one is just that this lady walked into the space of agribusiness and discovered the need to remain extremely at the top of the game. She undertook a master's program in a field where she had no bachelor's qualification.
That takes courage, eh?
And that really, and you can see how the course is worded. A Master of Science in Agribusiness, Entrepreneurship, and Management. Right on spot for the kind of territory where she's in. And she's simply saying that, let me get this because the people that I interact with in my space will want to engage with somebody also who speaks this kind of a language.
The language,
and this speaks a lot to all of us. Never underestimate your ability to go into a particular field and actually take another organized, deep course in it and become an authority. So, Noella, you are giving us a clear message that if you can do it, no Ugandans should block themselves and say, I did arts in Form 6. How can I go and do agribusiness now? I am not qualified. That's only in your mind. But in practice, you can do it.
Thank you, Charles. Viewers, at this point, I'll read some of the calls. So when you get through, just be brief, give us your brief question or comment and name, and then our panelists should be able to answer you. Hello? Okay, we still have a bit of an issue on the line. But Noella, there's something I wanted to bring out. Competition. It's rare to sit in a particular sector without competition. How are you handling that competition aspect?
Yes, it is. It is very rare, and competition is very good for growth because it brings in the checks and balance of are you doing things right? And while we are receiving competition, we have also decided to get our space and say we are only specific to root crops. We don't do anything else. If you want a home, you want to go to an enterprise, which is a home of root crops, come to Divine Organic Foods. And this is what I'm telling the public. And we have remained consistent to our game, consistent and focused. Even when the competitor is right at your door, we have remained firm and said, this is what we believe in. And with our model, there are very, very few enterprises that are practicing our model, where you have discounted prices, more or less the cheapest in the region, or if not in the country. One who would go to the northern part of the country where we work in, especially with the smallholder farmers. That model alone helps us. And we keep on building and strengthening it. It's not about sitting and saying, this is perfect. No, it's about daily building on your strength and removing those that you see are loopholes. If we were to sleep for a few months, yes, competition would probably sweep us off our feet. But keeping up to the game. I remember a time where I had a training. We had a training and it was facilitated by Mr. Chichi in Enterprise Uganda. It was looking at ensuring that all your team members, your staff, know about the enterprise. And in a scenario where the lead or the head of the institution, because I work as a director, operations director actually, in Divine Organic Foods, in a situation where I am not, my team members able to stand and immediately take on the boots and continue riding. That is very important for sustainability. And that alone helps you kick off competition, remain consistent, and have everybody know about the trade or the game of the enterprise as whatever level of staff.
I hear you.
Yeah.
Very good. I have Florence here who's saying, can Noella just give us a bit of a digest about her design business? But as you think about Florence's question, there's again a gentleman here from Tororo who's saying he's having a problem with cassava. There is a cassava disease, especially in his village in Tororo, which has made it hard for him to really make the numbers. I think talking about the challenges, and since now you have that master's in science and that kind of thing, I'm sure you are well healed to offer a solution. Charles, I have about 7 people again asking me for the contact of Enterprise Uganda and how they can be part of the Enterprise Uganda sessions. I think we'll start with you on that, Noella.
Thank you. For the gentleman in Tororo, I mentioned the stakeholders that I work with. Have you approached the sub-county agriculture officer? If he has failed to help you, have you approached the district and let the district know what is happening in your garden? And if you haven't, I would advise you to do so, because at that point you'll be able to know what is the challenge. Sometimes it's a disease within a particular region or an isolated area, and it is not in other regions. So getting in touch with your sub-county officials, agriculture officers, or the district production team is very, very important for a farmer. And that's what many of our farmers lack. They lack the ability, they lack the courage. I think it would be courage to walk up to some of these officials. And yet when you walk to these officials and you tell them your need, they'll address it. I am not an agronomist, and I will not be able to say there is a problem in your garden until you get to that particular sub-county official, agriculture officer, then they can be able to tell you.
Thank you.
And after you have known and you actually have your cassava ready, please look for the market. Do value addition. Don't just sell it as fresh roots. Do some value addition so that you get much more value, especially if part of it is damaged. And if it's not, then you'd be on the right track to get a little bit more money and value for your crop.
Thank you, Noella. Charles, as you answer that question, I have Henry Namanya here. He's saying, thank you for the program. And my question, is there a required startup capital to look up to before someone exits the corporate world?
Whoever asked that question is, you are doing a lot of justice for many viewers of this program. People have always fronted the word capital as a roadblock for their getting started in business. But you'll always discover that if you picked any successful entrepreneur, whichever district you come from, and asked them how they got started, you almost discover that they had scarcity of startup capital. It's a constant. Now, what did they then do? They now started to do something that was within the resource envelope they had. And when we talk about the resource envelope here, we're talking broadness of your own energy, your own knowledge, your own talents, your own contacts, your own existing underutilized resources. You have land, you have a house somewhere, you are not using it well. It can start giving a solution of some kind at some stage. And doesn't matter whether you are going to start that in Lira, in Kisoro, in Tororo, wherever. Start there and serve the customer in that place. It is not genetically stated that where you start, that's where you'll remain. That was your take-off point. Noella here didn't have the milling machines. Now you are into milling. I think you have even located in what? In industrial park?
Industrial area in Lira.
Industrial area in Lira. But in the beginning, she didn't go there. Did you take any loans to get into that? You see?
Till to date.
Up to today, no loan as yet. So I want to tell people that when you come to the Enterprise Uganda trainings, we tell you how every entrepreneur almost you want to pick up anywhere in this country, you'll discover that they never waited for a handout from anyone.
Thank you.
Along the way, their track records made them to start attracting resources, including bank loans.
I hear you.
Yes.
Now, I have very many questions coming in. Sorry, viewers, we still have a bit of an issue with the lines, but I'm seeing the questions coming in on the WhatsApp number, which is on the screen. But please give us your name when you send the questions. I have someone here from Nakaseke, Noella, for you. He's saying, what happened to the vegetable sausage? And when are you moving to Nakaseke? I love the root crop business.
Yes.
Then can you mix starch with vegetables to make sausage? Well, a bit of information there. If you can go for it quickly as we pick the others.
That is all about product development. So when I talked about vegetables, we have so many vegetables in this country. So yes, you can mix, but you need very good quality starch. And that is why we went into cassava. So we are still baking, I should say, a language that women will use. We are still baking the sausage by working in the sector where we can get quality starch. So we hope that in the next few years, after we have baked and we are ready to go, we shall have good quality starch and we shall hit the road and have the vegetable sausage. I hope you will be the first client.
Very good. Again, Sam was wondering, when are you rolling to Luwero? It seems we have a number of people watching from Luwero with your other value chains, potato and that kind of thing. Yes, to bring them on board.
That's just part of the plan of expansion. So when we are ready to expand, we will sit as the team members of Divine Organic Foods and then identify the area where we shall next move.
Okay. Charles, I have a number that are coming in, again, asking me how they can be part of the Enterprise Uganda programs and where Enterprise Uganda is located. Yes, about 5 questions.
All right. I want to say this because indeed many Ugandans since this program started have been saying, Enterprise Uganda, we're grateful for what you are doing. How can we be part of your story? And my earlier answer was that the moment you start seeing government easing the gathering, say in churches, mosques, then Enterprise Uganda should also be able to come up with a timetable. Yes, indeed, we are now going to start putting out a very structured approach to resuming our scheduled structured training programs. And we're looking at the first week of November to start giving people concrete timelines on when these trainings will start. For now, make sure that you have these numbers. Here is the landline: 0312 382 100. 0312 382 100. That's the landline. My number is 0772 699 808. We are located on plot number 38 Lumumba Avenue. But we are indeed going to schedule the training programs in the shortest time possible.
Very good.
And most likely by the first week of November.
Very good. You've helped me answer about 15 questions here. Now I have Ruth from Chisasi. She's saying, kindly ask Mr. Chichi whether if I came to Enterprise Uganda, they can help me to teach me what business I can venture into. Some of us are struggling to discover our talents.
Interesting. And we have always told people that please come to Enterprise Uganda. We'll give you 7 ways on how to identify a viable business idea. 7 ways. By the time we finish all the 7, you'll discover that these 3 here are giving me the opening. If you had come saying, oh, you know, I want to go and start baking, you might discover that ultimately baking is your 3rd in the line. But there's something you can get started with tomorrow. Because I want to keep on saying, do not mind about getting into the first business as your ideal destination. Get into the first business to serve the first customer. It's key to get started.
I hear you.
And we take people through this by taking them through that module on how to discover a business opportunity.
Very good.
Within your resources.
Very good, very good. Noella, I have Francis Odong here. He's saying, how long has it taken you to start and getting to a point where you're sustainably profitable?
Probably about 4 years.
You see?
About 4 years.
Okay. Okay. Well, I have someone again from Busheng. Is saying he did a diploma in agribusiness at a level of diploma. Rather, a diploma in agribusiness. He's saying it's the way to go. But of course, one of the challenges is how do you transform that knowledge into an actual business idea, into a practical business operation? I know you touched a little on that, but you can still summarize for our viewers.
How do I transform it?
Yes.
Yeah,
First,
diploma
in agribusiness.
First, identify what is it that you like. By the time you did a diploma, there's something that propelled you, pushed you into studying and completing, because you completed as well. By identifying that particular area, and then you look at the gap. Is there a gap in that area? If it is doing a business, an agribusiness, providing inputs, sale of inputs, if it is actually value addition, because that is still agribusiness, value addition of something within your community. Like Mr. Chichi said, do what is in your means, the resources in your means. You are already a resource. Very correct. By the knowledge that you have. So identify the gap and use that resource. And be practical. There would be a difference between what you've learned and what the community is practicing. Get the middle, be the middleman in there. See, is what the community is practicing, what you have learned, what is the gap, and then you launch yourself and merge the two and keep consistent and keep focused that if I merge the two, community practice and actual knowledge, I will get there.
Very good. I have Mukisa from Iganga. He's saying, you know, the inputs that you give to the farmers, do you give it as loans or subsidized inputs? How do you recover that?
In two ways. We give inputs as discounted price, and we still work within the groups that we have set up, or existing groups. Actually, majority of these are existing groups, and those we have set up, we give them seed loan. Because, like I had mentioned earlier on, we have block farms, and in these block farms, these are really farms that are either owned by Divine Organic Foods or has been handed over by the sub-counties, land that has been handed over to Divine Organic Foods. So those farmers within the blocks, we give them seed loan, because these are really disadvantaged farmers, and we want to cushion them, but we want the company to make a profit. So by them working on the land, we are paying them, and they are able to pay back eventually that money, and we deduct it at source. We deduct it at Divine Organic Foods. While the other farmers are able to pay discounted, able to pay through the discount price systems that we have put.
I hear you. Now, Peter is asking, how does Noella sell her root crops? She doesn't seem to mention that.
Well, like I mentioned it actually.
I think Peter missed it.
Yes.
Really.
Well, we sell it in various ways, because we have grown in the farmer outreach. And farmers have been, are the ones who sell us now. They are the ones who market us, because we keep our public relationship with them is very vital. So while the network of farmers has grown, as a company, our processing plant is not able to absorb all the roots that are produced by over these 2,000 to 3,000 plus farmers. So what we do is work again within the private sector, and that's one thing that we have tried to keep our relationship. Even when someone is a competitor, make sure you have a relationship with them, because then they can become a fallback market where you're not able to absorb all the roots. So we sell it. We are able to link up with other private sector players who are interested in roots, either for export, most especially the orange flesh sweet potato, or those who are going to process it. There are markets that there are enterprises or companies that will take it beyond Uganda, most especially the cassava chips. We are able to link up our farmers. And in linking up our farmers, one may ask, are you benefiting? The benefit that we get is the trust that the farmer has in us, and the trust that the farmer is getting clean certified roots, inputs, and taking it to their farm, getting good yield, and are able to buy the next season. They're able to buy inputs from us. So when we link them up with markets, they are sure that this is a player or this is a partner who is not going to leave us. So we link them up, and then where we are able, we process the flour. We process the flour in industrial area Lira, and when we process the roots into flour. When we process the flour, we are able to sell it to, again, other enterprises that absorb it and use it in their confectionaries.
Thank you. Charles, I have John here for you. He's wondering what kind of principles you can share with him in venturing in the area of agribusiness, because to him, the sector seems to have unique realities that are a bit different from the other sectors. It's a long question, so I've tried to paraphrase it.
Okay.
But I think you can also anchor it on the question that Noella partly answered of the gentleman from Bushenyi as well.
Yeah, the Bushenyi, the diploma fellow.
Yes.
Just starting from that fellow, the diploma in Bushenyi, you should be able to start saying that I got this diploma. In my neighborhood are people who are having agribusiness enterprises. What challenges are they going? You could easily start by saying, as she did, she said, I'm going to concentrate on root crops and work on that until I'm known for root crops. The Bushenyi person could choose by saying, I'm going to concentrate on vaccines or treatment of poultry. And you start working on that, reading about it, learning about it, contacting people who have been doing that until you master the common chicken diseases for chicks, for pullets, for the big birds, and for chicken when there are many. Once you've done that for 6 months, you begin to become an authority. You do that for a year, you are so comfortable in your space. You do that for 24 months, you are a consultant. And suddenly, you discover you sat on your talent for too long. Did you need any capital for that? No. Did you need any loan for that? No. Did you need anybody to come and knock your door for you to do that? Never.
And I think that's a very important point, Charles, because just before this discussion, I was in a bit of a discussion with a few colleagues.
Yes.
And I was saying, Charles, you guys talk about these things, about starting a business with 500,000.
Yes.
But is it possible? In fact, someone was even suggesting and saying that unless you're going to start a police post, whatever he meant. But, I mean, probably you can help demystify the numbers issue, which many people tend to pay emphasis.
Yes. We've always shared this in our training. We say that if you had one hen and one cock, the investment there is not more than 50,000 shillings. But you need to feed them as they lay eggs. This hen is going to give you 30 eggs in a year. At the end of that 1 year, those new number of chicken, now which is 30, you can release some 15 to look after the remaining 15. Release the cocks. The remaining hens in the next year should be big enough to start giving you the eggs again. Each one again giving you 30 eggs. Multiply 15 by 30 hens. That's 100 and what? 15 by 30 is 450.
I hear you.
Release some 200 to go to the market. I mean to sell them so that you look after the remaining 250 hens. You are now going to the third year. 250 times again, each one giving you 30 eggs in a year will take you to 7,500. By the time you release again, say 2,500 of those, so that you are left with 5,000 hens going to the fourth year. 5,000 hens times 30 will give 150,000 chicken in the fourth year. 150,000 sell at 10,000. That's 1.5 billion. Consistency is the word she used. How consistent were you in this game? How thorough were you in knowing the key success factors of treating the chicken, treating the chicks, feeding the chicken, ensuring that there are no vermin, no animals that take any chick from the stocks. Did you know that Yuga Chick will never allow a worker to walk through the gate without inspecting?
Very good points, Charles.
So consistency, starting with what you have, is the game.
Very good.
Do not be bothered by what people are saying about what you have started.
And I know you've been speaking rightly into the heart of someone who I knew began local chicken farming in the lockdown.
Yes.
And has had issues. So
Yes.
I think they've picked very strong pointers. Noella, what are your parting shots?
Wow, I have many. I just want to add on what Mr. Chichi said. While you'll be consistent, save. You have to save and use the little that you have to invest it rightfully. Again, I also would want, as an agro and processor, the root crops that I am dealing in are substitutes to wheat. I call upon the policymakers and those in charge, Ministry of Trade, that the import substitution policy, boo-boo, while there is wheat out there, give the Ugandan farmer, and all the farmers out there who are growing different substitutes of wheat, and for me it is cassava and orange flesh wheat potato, give us a chance and allow us make a 10% contribution to every confectionery or product that is made with wheat. That means at the end of the day you are impacting the rural smallholder farmer, because they will be able to buy and have a sustainable livelihood. But they'll also be able to sell to an agro-processor like I and many others out there, and we sell to the industrial market. That policy would take us a long way. And to all the entrepreneurs, don't be shy. Step out of the boat and walk. Remain focused. Hard work. And hard work and hard work and hard work. And don't give up. Even when you're alone and the forest seems quiet, there is no money seeping into the enterprise. Keep focused, be consistent, and comply with the different regulations that are available. Those will be a stepping stone to your success.
Thank you,
We
Noella.
are still walking the journey as Divine Organic Foods.
Thank you very much. Charles, wrap this up for us.
I want to tell Ugandans that we as a country have the ability to make Uganda economically independent. The kind of stories we've been sharing since this afternoon Sunday program started clearly illustrate that the entry point to the private sector, you decide. You can enter from any angle. Atwib went to Nakawa market. That's where he entered from. We ended, there was this Yasin, he went to fish. That's how he got in from. So we are demonstrating to the country, to the Ugandans, that the journey of enterprise, the journey of entrepreneurship can be done. But it has got some rules that you must follow. And those rules simply encourage you to ensure that two things get fulfilled. Whatever you want to deliver to the market, it must serve and look after expectations of the customer, be it a villager, be it a person in a sophisticated urban setting. But number two, be ready to compete. If you can fulfill those two, you are ready and set to go into the game of entrepreneurship. Whether you're a scientist, you're an artist, you had no talents, you thought you were completely discarded by this world, the route of entrepreneurship is an open avenue.
And a musician.
For all of us.
On that note, viewers, we've come to the end of this week's edition of the Practical Business Skills. I've been your host, Charles Boji. Have a good evening. Bye-bye.